Now, well, in life, and especially these days on the internet, we get bombarded with an assortment of different advice. Some of it solicited, some of it not. And, but there is a piece of advice that I've seen doing the rounds for about 15 years now, and it is the worst, most ridiculous, most catastrophic, disastrous advice I've ever heard in my life. And what that advice says is that if your gut is telling you something is wrong, if somebody is making you feel afraid, or if a situation is worrying you, then that means there's something wrong with the situation and you should just walk away. That's terrible advice. Like, on the surface it seems like good advice because it's like, don't do things outside your comfort zone because then you're betraying the real you, or it seems like, oh, you're trusting the wrong people, or something like that. But supposing you're somebody who suffers from generalized anxiety, this is the worst advice ever. It will literally keep you from being able to make a single decision with your life. Not only that though, if you don't suffer from generalized anxiety, if you just have a little bit of anxiety, it will exacerbate it because you're leaning into your fears instead of resisting them. And people who have overcome anxiety, or at least better learn to manage it, will tell you that actually a lot of the time you have to ignore your fears and push through them. You have to sort of learn that you have to give yourself the opportunity to learn that your fears aren't real. So you know, the more you obey your fears, the more they grow, ironically. The worse the fears become, whereas the more you face them, the more you just deal with them, the more manageable they become for you. And I've found this to be very true in my own life. Back in the past, when I did not know that I had anxiety, I had a very strong tendency to make decisions according to what the anxiety was telling me. And as a result, my anxiety grew and grew and grew and became worse and worse to the point where it was completely running my life. And I only started to be able to have any kind of health or happiness in my life once I started to disobey it or completely overlook it. And not that isn't to say that you should go ahead and make bad, stupid, scary decisions with your life all the time, because there are some things that are discernibly dangerous and therefore not worth doing. For example, you wouldn't throw yourself in front of a car even if you didn't suffer from anxiety because you know that you don't want to be hit by a car. And a lot of decisions in life are like that. You might go on a date with somebody and your anxiety will tell you, oh, something's wrong with this person. But you can stop and ask yourself, well, okay, what is it about this person that is giving me anxiety? What are they actually doing? And is the anxiety I'm feeling proportionate to that behavior? Is it necessarily an indicator that something is wrong? You can actually ask questions and look at, well, logically, is this actually proof that there is something wrong? People talk as though you should just follow your feelings, but sometimes your feelings can be wrong. Sometimes your feelings will mislead you, and I think you can use them to stop and notice, okay, what happened in this moment where I started to feel this way? And you can interrogate that and examine that. And that can help you make better decisions. But that's a very different process from just unilaterally deciding to make every decision based on fear. And, the significance of this is that I went ahead and bought a book about anxiety today. I haven't started reading it yet, but I'm going to. I'm in the middle of reading 3 different books right now, so I'm thinking I should finish off at least one of those before I move on to another. But, I guess I just want to finish this off by saying, the next time somebody gives you that advice of, oh, if your gut is telling you something bad is about to happen, just walk away and obey it. Like, ask those people, well, okay, can you prove that if I ignore that and if I go ahead and do what logic would tell me is right, what the facts would tell me is the right thing to do, or what my own morality or values would tell me to do, How can I be sure that that's necessarily going to result in disaster? How can I know that? How can you prove that to me? And if they don't have any kind of an answer for you, and of course and it's impossible to answer that because their position is actually absurd in the first place. It's a primary example of one of the many pieces of advice that keeps going the rounds on the internet that is completely without basis in fact, and yet we're told to believe it as if it's true. And you know, it just sounds true because it sounds strong and it sounds smart, but in fact it's the weaker position precisely because you are making decisions solely based on fear rather than really thinking about what is right. And of course we're going to want to cooperate with that advice because it's the easy way out, it's the easier thing to do, but in life the easiest thing isn't always the right thing. Sometimes the right thing to do is actually the hard thing. And if you keep at it, it gets easier and you become a more mature, more developed person as you keep up with it. And, you know, but still I would say practice reasonable thought. If you know, if you see a man with a windowless van offering you candy if you get inside it, of course you're going to say no. And you should, because you know, but that is a case of common sense. Don't obey your fear, just use common sense to make your decisions, and you will make better decisions.